As Eugenio comes forward to read Scripture, I invite you to stand for the reading of the Scripture.
Good morning, church.
Good morning.
Scripture, Matthew 14, verses 13 to 21. I'm going to read the Spanish part first. Oyéndolo Jesús, se apartó de ahí en una barca a un lugar desierto y apartado. Y cuando la gente lo oyó, le siguió a pie desde sus ciudades. Y saliendo Jesús, vio una gran multitud, tuvo compasión de ellos y sanó a los que de ellos estaban enfermos. Cuando anochecía se acercaron a él sus discípulos, diciendo, el lugar es desierto y la hora ya pasada. Despide a la multitud para que vayan por las aldeas y compren de comer. Jesús les dijo, no tienen necesidad de irse, dadles vosotros de comer. Y ellos dijeron, no tenemos aquí sino 5 panes y 2 peces. Él les dijo, traédmelos acá. Entonces mandó a la gente a recostarse sobre la hierba, y tomando los 5 panes y 2 peces, y levantó los ojos al cielo, bendijo y partió, y dio los panes a los discípulos y los discípulos a la multitud. Y comieron todos, y se saciaron. Y recogieron lo que sobró de los pedazos, 12 cestas llenas. Y los que comieron fueron como 5,000 hombres, sin contar mujeres y los niños. When Jesus heard about the beheading, he left Nazareth by boat and went to a deserted place to be alone. The crowds heard of this and followed him from their towns on foot. When Jesus disembarked and the bath thrown, his heart was moved with pity, and he healed their sick. As evening drew on, the disciples approached Jesus and said, this is a deserted place and it's already late. Dismiss the crowd so they can go to the villages and buy some food for themselves. Jesus said to them, There's no need for them to disperse. Give them something to eat yourselves. But we have nothing here, they replied, but 5 loaves and a couple of fish. Bring them here, Jesus said. Then he ordered the crowds to sit in the grass. Taking the 5 loaves and the 2 fish, Jesus looked up to heaven, blessed the fruit, broke it, and gave it to the disciples, who in turn gave it to the people. All those present ate their fill. The fragments remaining were gathered up, filled up 12 baskets. About 5,000 families were fed. Hear what the Spirit is saying to the church.
Thank you. Seated. Detroit City Council member Gabriela Santiago-Romero. She currently serves on the Budget, Finance, and Audit Standing Committee and is the first Latina to ever chair a standing committee, Public Health and Safety. Santiago-Romero is an immigrant from Mexico and a Southwest Detroit native. She's the former Policy and Research Director at We the People Michigan, based in Detroit. She earned her Master's of Social Work, studying social policy and evaluation with a focus on community and social systems from the University of Michigan. She has made history by becoming the first out female LGBTQ Detroit council member. She's a community activist and organizer who has extensive experience working for Detroit nonprofits and local government. Love and food fuel her work. Please give Council Member Santiago-Romero a warm central welcome.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning, everyone. Thank you all so much for having me here. Before I get started on what I wrote this morning, I feel the need to share with you, for those who don't know, I grew up Catholic. I went to Our Lady of Guadalupe Middle School in Southwest Detroit before it closed. And it was at this church in the 5th grade where I attended my first protest, where I was sitting in the pews, where I was learning about injustices, where I was learning about systems and how they were hurting our people, where I was really encouraged courage to become a fighter. So thank you for what you've done for me. I was that size here, learning, and just feel really overwhelmed and believe in full moments and full circles, which is a moment today. So thank you all. As has been mentioned, I'm your proud Detroit City Council member, and thank you, Reverend, for asking me to celebrate with you all today. I am a proud immigrant from Mexico. I came to the U.S. when I was 1, and I called Detroit home since I was 2 years old. And prior to holding elected office, I was a community organizer. I have a background in social work, and I believe in stories and the power that they hold. And I always start my story by recalling a moment of realization that began for me early on and continued as deep reflection and awareness for me for the rest of my life. That moment for me was when I found out I was poor. I was in middle school, and I was watching my mom cook dinner for us. I was at the kitchen table, and I was asking her for new shoes. I said, "Mommy, can you buy me the new Nikes?" And she said, "No, mija, I can't." I didn't understand why. I thought adults could just do whatever they wanted, but I knew some were poor. So I asked my mom, I said, "Mommy, are we poor?" My mom turned around, put the spoon in my face, and laughed and said, "You didn't know we were poor?" And no, I had no idea that we were poor, because growing up, there was always food on my table. The heat was always on. The lights always worked. Every single Christmas, I got a toys under my Christmas tree. It was later in life that I realized that oftentimes me and my mom would go to a church or to a food pantry. My mom would give $5 or $10 and get a box full of food. My mom would go to our local nonprofits like an urban neighborhood initiatives, where they would give us toys from Toys for Tots. It wasn't until I got older that I realized that it was these organizations and these systems that provided me and my family with basic needs that allowed us to live our lives with dignity. I also realized as I got older, as I got more politically engaged, as we are often encouraged here in the city of Detroit, that there were people making decisions about these programs that oftentimes did not understand just how bad we were struggling, that oftentimes didn't understand how these food stamps were literally what we needed to be able to make it to the next week. These programs allowed me and many people around me to live our lives with dignity. And I realized that unless you understood the struggles, you didn't understand how important these assets were for us. I grew up during the bankruptcy. I would wake up in the middle of the night to my neighborhood literally engulfed in flames. I would come home after school, and I would see fathers or heads of households with a beer or a cigarette in hand and a pink slip, because slowly people were being let go from their jobs. I saw my vibrant, thriving, beautiful neighborhood, a black and brown neighborhood, crumbling because of the systems around us failing us. All while I was driving to Mercy High School in Farmington Hills, thanks to my full ride scholarship, to a place where no one had any idea just how bad we were struggling here in the city of Detroit. We made the news all of the time, but we were never important enough to be covered, to be cared for. We were always a hot topic of discussion, but we were never hot enough to be engaged and supported. Those of us that stayed here in the city of Detroit woke up every day after those fires, and we cleaned up our neighborhood. We used those broken pieces of wood to build benches that we sat on. We used those empty fields, and we created farms and gardens. We cared for each other. We found each other. We exchanged our phone numbers. We checked on each other because we knew that was the only way to survive, and we know this to be true today. That's exactly what we need to be doing now, and what we need to be doing regardless of what happens after these November elections. We're going to need to hold each other. We're going to need to see each other. We're going to need to hold ourselves accountable for the love and the care that we need to give each other when these systems continue to fail us. Thankfully, I was raised here in the city of Detroit, right here in this church where I was taught about social justice, about speaking truth to power, about growing our collective power. And I have seen our collective power in action. We have launched mutual aid projects when our families needed funding at the height of the pandemic. We have provided emergency immigration protections when our federal government threatens deportations. We have marched and demanded for police accountability when yet another Black man is killed. We have looked out for each other. We do feed each other. We do love each other. And we do care for each other. We've done it before, and we need to do that for each other time and time and time again. No matter who's in office, no matter who's elected, it's going to be community that always upholds no matter what. Systems will fail us. Community will not fail us. Our journey is one that is both full of tears and immense joy, not to mention so many lessons learned. I'm incredibly grateful and honored to be a part of our community, to be able to build these vibrant, thriving communities alongside you. When I think back of what we've accomplished through my office, I'm reminded that we can't do this unless it's with our people. The only way that our union siblings at the casinos won were because union siblings came together and fought for better contracts. The only way that we were able to become the first major city to call for a ceasefire is because people came and demanded for so. The only way that we will continue to do this work is if we continue to bend the arc further towards justice. In this current moment, we're being asked to listen. We're seeing in real time our loved ones, our friends, drift further away from each other. I'm learning to listen deeply because I'm realizing that the majority of us want the same thing. We want housing, we want transportation, we want to enjoy the fruits of our labor, we want access to health care, we want to love and raise our families. We all want the same thing. In this moment, I ask that you please remember the power of the little things. Remember that greeting someone hello, making eye contact really will change their day. Remember taking a deep breath before you engage in a passionate political discussion may save you a relationship and a conflict in the long run. As someone that has come from organizing on our streets to making decisions at the council table, I will say that the little things like calling for public comments, emailing your council member, calling us on our phones, it makes a huge difference. Right now, I'm on council and I'm seeing that a lot of us are making assumptions about how things work or don't work without even trying to engage the system. I know everyone tells you to vote, and that's great, and we should, but quite frankly, that to me is not the most powerful tool that we have. The most powerful tool that we have is connection. Connecting with people in a deep human way, acknowledging that we have shared humanity, that we have shared pain, that we have a responsibility to support each other. I'm worried that in this moment of technology, of AI and fake news, we're beginning to forget that we are people, that when we come together, we are powerful, that we are people that were made to touch and hold one another, that we are people that were made to love and care for one another. It is in these small ways of interacting that I truly, truly believe that we will be able to create change. Yes, of course, votes. Yes, of course, run for office. Yes, of course, be politically engaged. But please, when you walk out your front door every morning, say good morning to your neighbor. Please, while you're at the grocery store aisle, picking out food, say hello to the mom that's right next to you, because she, just like you, is dealing with 1,000 things in your head. Remember that we are all going through so many concerns. Remember that we need to secure each other, not just here, but that when our tax dollars are funding bombs in the Middle East, we need to say no. Change is really only possible if we engage with it. And I believe in a collaborative government, one that listens to our constituents, one that works hand in hand in developing our communities and developing this world. I believe in this and we practice it because I feel that as a society, we are losing trust in institutions for a very good reason. but we will only overcome this by connecting, by supporting each other, by loving each other. This will not happen overnight. There is no quick fix, but we must take the time to see each other, to acknowledge each other, to connect. At the end of the day, we all want the same thing. We are all in the search for happiness, for safety, for community, and for love. And as we recommit to this and the fundamental truth that grounds us, we will begin to see that us collectively can go a lot further. That these shadows of fear and divisions do not have to keep us apart. And I really, really ask us to not be afraid, to look at each other, to connect one another. And thank you all so much, because I believe in small actions. Quite frankly, small actions is what got me to this space. So thank you all so much.